Undoing. This is the part of the journey that sucks. Can we just say that? This is probably the least desired phase. So welcome. Buckle up. But the law of contrast means that there's another side of this crappy phase. This is the phase of change. Oh, well, when I word it that way, you guys perked up. Wait a second. I didn't know I want change. Change is good. Change is results. But that's the thing. Everyone wants the results of change. But very few are willing to do what it takes to change. Undoing. Undoing in a relationship means break up. Undoing in a job means I've just wasted all of that time. Undoing here means, I have to face the consequences of the choices that I've made. And that's not fun. But when you look at someone who inspires you, it is this phase that pivots their life. This one. This is the inspiring part of every story. It's the part when they had the courage, the bravery, and the guts to do it. To stand up for themselves, to say no. I'm going to give you a very valuable piece of information today. Promises break. Promises break. In New York City, there were a lot of broken promises Saturday morning. Because Friday night, everything sounds good. Yes, would love to go with you up to Upper West Side to go explore that coffee shop. Oh my God, we should do breakfast. Let's do brunch. Oh my God, yes, let's do it. No one actually makes real plans on Friday night. I didn't realize that. So when I got ready the next day and no one responded, I learned one of my New York City lessons. Promises break. Those promises were made in a different set of circumstances, in a whole different situation. We're drinking, there's time. We have, all of the world of the weekend ahead of us. In dating, this happens a lot. We get so excited. I can see my future with you. Me too. Yay. Where'd they go? I thought we had this beautiful life together. Sometimes people say things in the moment they don't actually mean. And in the phase of undoing, sometimes we realize that we had very good intentions for our life. But when we wake up the next day, i.e., when we wake up, promises break. It doesn't mean that we didn't have good intentions. It doesn't mean that we weren't there in the moment. It means that now those promises don't support your new reality. It can be as easy as Saturday morning or a whole new life. Some people break relationships. Some people break habits. Some people quit drinking. Some people start focusing on self-care. Everyone's undoing is individual. Because choices are unique. And you made choices in your unique set of circumstance. Some choices will be harder to break than others. Some consequences will be full of pain, even if it's alignment. In my life, I have learned very quickly that apologies are gold. You don't have to be a perfect person, but you have to be a humble one. Humility is different than shame. See, it's very difficult for those of us on this healing journey to apologize. Because that means we're taking blame, right? And for those of us that have emotional trauma since childhood, apologies rarely came. And blame meant fault. Fault in who you are. Someone who apologizes is not standing up and saying, I agree, I am a terrible human being. Someone who apologizes says, oh my goodness, I never meant to impact you in that way. Hearing your perspective really bothers me. I don't like how I acted. I don't like my behavior. I have learned something from you, and I will be mindful not to do this again. You see, when someone apologizes, the other person feels heard, seen, and valued. The greatest apology you will ever make in the undoing phase is the apology to yourself. People wonder, how do I release shame? How do I heal from a lifetime of pain? Especially when I have to face the consequences of the choices that I made in the opposite direction of alignment. You aren't accepting faults in who you are. But there is a moment when you, your soul, yourself, needs to feel heard, seen, and valued. Because the reality is, you made those choices. You may have been bullied into those choices, but you made them. Which doesn't mean that you have to take on new meaning into who you are. But it means you need to see who you are through compassion. Why did you choose that choice? Why did you choose that person? Why did you say yes? Why did you say no? What keeps you stuck are the opportunities you either did or didn't take. What keeps you stuck more is not accepting that you had choice in every part of your life. You did not choose your trauma. Your conditioned brain has been wired to make choices against your will. But it was done in such a way where you still had choice. Here's where acceptance comes in. We have to accept that there was a part of us inside that chose those things. You see, we can't just blame the conditioned brain because you still will not accept in yourself that pain. You have to show compassion to yourself. And compassion can only be shown to someone who needs to be heard, seen, and valued. Ourselves. If you have nothing to be sorry for, you won't feel compassion. We have been taught to blame outward because that is what we were shown. Undoing means you are going to show yourself compassion because you are in a vulnerable state. A vulnerable state of accepting consequence, of accepting the choice. Listen, I am known for reinventing myself in life, but I'm also known for making really big mistakes and only making them once. I remember my mom told me that. You know, you are really, really good at making a mistake, but the thing about you is you only make it once. It's not because I'm so much better than everyone else that I only make it once. It's that when I make a mistake, I own it. I have zero problem apologizing. In fact, I've been called the apologizer. I had to learn how to quit apologizing for my existence. But apologizing is healthy. Think about it. We all want an apology. There's probably 5 people right now you can think of that you want an apology from. So then think of 5 people you're ready to apologize to. But as I mentioned earlier, the most important apology you will ever make is the one to yourself. Because who else is going to apologize to you for making those choices? Who else is going to apologize to you for not taking that opportunity? Who else is going to apologize to you for wasting all of the time in your life that you did? Because you did. Here, we're not going to sugarcoat things. We're not going to tell you, oh, good job. You didn't waste time. You created an opportunity for yourself. It's like when people say, no, I wasn't fired. I took the opportunity to find a new career. That's beautiful. But at some point, you have to accept that you were fired so you can learn from your mistakes so that you don't get fired again. So you can spin life however you need to feel better about it, but you won't actually feel better unless you face the reality. Which means you have to see what part of you really wanted that in the first place. You see, for me, when I was lost, when I was partying, when I was just feeling like there was no purpose for me in life, I didn't have to accept that I had dabbled in drugs. I mean, part of me did. The real acceptance I was facing was I had turned down a full ride scholarship to college. And I wasn't going anywhere with my life. I could feel something bigger, but I had nothing to show for it. I wanted to be in love, and I failed miserably at everyone that I picked. I wanted all of these things, and I didn't have anything to show for it. I felt like a failure. I felt like a loser. And not only that, but I was lonely. The lonely loser. No one wants to be that. And yet, is that who I am? No. But I had to face the reality that the choices I made were because I was being a lonely loser. You see, I wasn't who I was meant to be. And yet I was exactly where I was supposed to be. In the moment of undoing. Here's where people get it twisted. I was meant to go through this so that I could help people. I was meant to experience this pain because that's what made me who I am today. No. You were not meant to experience the opposition of alignment. You will experience the opposition of alignment to learn what alignment is. And we are meant to learn. But we are not meant for the pain. We are meant for the overcoming. Which means we are meant for the undoing. This is the phase. This is the moment everything in your life has been leading up to. This is the moment where change is about to happen. This is the moment of undoing. You will have to give yourself compassion. Just the other night, I sent my sister a text message. I sent her a text message saying, "Hi, hey, if we could talk just for a minute about the schedule coming up this week with the boys. I have some filming I need to do in the city. Just need about 5 or 10 minutes of your time. Happy face." You know what I got? What did I do wrong? Bless her. Bless her. Isn't that our reaction? We instantly feel in the wrong. My mom asked her, "So, curious, why do you think you're in trouble?" Like, where did that come from? In fact, it was funny because she said, "Well, if you could have just told me we needed 5 or 10 minutes. And I said, "Look at your text. I even included a happy face." "Oh, I didn't see that." It's hard to see the truth in trigger. But she said her dad, our dad growing up, always used to shame her. Long talks. Long, shameful, blameful talks. Maybe you've had some of these. And here's the part where you have to accept. You can have somebody totally understanding of who you are and what you need in emotional pain and trauma healing, i.e. myself, send you a text, and you will still read it differently. You don't need a life full of all new people. The people aren't the problem. Some of them are. Promises break. But then there's the you. The acceptance, the compassion, the forgiveness that needs to happen, because guess what? In trigger, you saw things differently. You saw things differently. Maybe you were being a lonely loser. That's okay. I've been there. That's not who I am, and that's not who you are. We are so much more, which is why we're choosing to spend our time connecting like this. But in order to heal, to truly heal, you can't just understand trauma. You can't just understand psychology, because then we start to blame psychology. We start to blame trauma. Well, if that didn't happen to me, well, then I'd be this way. You're human. And so no matter what happened to you, you are going to be on a learning curve. You are going to make mistakes. The only way to know what you want is to experience what you don't. So guess what? You didn't fail by experiencing a relationship that wasn't good for you. But it wasn't getting the new love relationship in your life that made you a success. It was learning and choosing differently in the next that made your success. You see, in undoing, we understand ownership. Ownership. Taking ownership for our choices, for our energy, for ourselves, for our life, for our alignment, for our apologies, and for our overcomings. Here's the really cool thing about someone who apologizes. When it's ready to be celebrated, that person claims that too. Someone who blames mistakes will never be able to accept the wins. Someone who takes ownership in choice takes ownership for reward and success. Which is probably why results feel empty. We go to, well, maybe I just wanted the wrong thing. Here, we are teaching you that it isn't the thing. It's the acceptance. It's the ownership. When you start to apologize to yourself, one would think that you start to talk more negatively to yourself. But the opposite happens. When you truly forgive yourself and compassion and have that conversation, you respect yourself. You start to celebrate you. You don't fakely celebrate every little thing of the day in gratitude. You have moments where you go, oh, I nailed that. I did that. My toddler was having a meltdown and I stayed cool. OMG. I did that. Not every time, but I did that one time. That's good. The conversation with yourself in your brain changes when you stop blaming. Let me repeat that. The conversation in your brain starts to change when you stop blaming. It's empowering. Now, I'm not telling you to go apologize to everyone in your life that doesn't deserve one. But you most definitely deserve one from yourself. So let's start there. We believe in energy matching, which you will learn about at a later time. So you want to be vulnerable with safe people. But you won't be able to be vulnerable with anyone else if you are not able to be vulnerable with yourself. And this isn't just going back to your child you and writing a letter to who you were when you were 5. Because it is easier to apologize to yourself when you see yourself as a child. It is. And I'm not going to sit here and knock those exercises because they're beautiful. But you came here for the fastest way to heal. Yeah. Those exercises won't work the same way as when you look at yourself through ownership and choice, which means an adult. You see, it's easier to forgive a child because they don't know any better. Do you see how it's gotten twisted? Psychology has made it easier for you to see yourself, to forgive yourself in the session, but you have not forgiven you. You've forgiven the child. Who you are today is an adult. You're a grown-ass human. You figured out how to log in to some technology to watch this video. You have choice. You have free will. Beautiful. You must forgive the real you. Not the you that I don't know how I got here. See, the reality of me, the darkness of me that I talk about in reference in Journey of the Soul, this version of me is very powerful. In fact, I remember telling myself, I know exactly how to make a man fall in love with me. And I did. The problem was I didn't know how to pick the right man. That was a different story. But I could feel this power in me. I had presence. I had this way of entering a room and having people feel me before I enter. I know that power exists. So I also know that when I want something and I put my mind to it, I get it. And I didn't just dabble. I found my way to some seriously effed up people. Because if I'm going to do it, I'll be the best. That power in me, I used for darkness. Because I was tired of being perfect, which I thought was light. I made a conscious choice to step into darkness. And I've owned it. I know that with great power comes great responsibility. And I know that through experience. So when I own that in myself, the healed version of me doesn't cut off the part of my power that dwells inside of me. It steps into the confidence and the ability in myself to always choose light. Here's the thing. There is a part of you, a very ugly part of you, that you don't want to see. But how do you love yourself if you only love half yourself? Like, I could imagine if I went home today, looked my husband in the eyes and said, God, I love half of you. I don't think that would start the night off on the right foot. I don't think we would have a beautiful, blossoming love story. I think we'd have a question or two. The same applies for me. When I look myself in the mirror, I don't choose to see all the good parts. I choose to see the life I choose in spite of all my parts. You see, here's the thing. A lot of people take advantage of people in the healing industry. If you think about it, people like us, we're very easily manipulated. Yes? I have a passion. Part of me had to learn the passion can't be to expose everyone, because that is a big part of who I am inside. I want people to pay. But when I choose that power for good, I fight the right fight. I don't lose and cut off the part of me that fights. I fight the right fight, which is why I am investing so much time in you for free. because there's enough people out there taking advantage of people who need healing. Don't worry, I'm still in business. Once you get more confidence, we'll transact. I want you to feel like here, you are hearing truth. Because if you Google how to heal yourself, you will hear every regurgitated way of how to love yourself, accept yourself, how to show compassion to your inner child. And those are beautiful things. But why aren't they working? They work for a moment. And that's beautiful. But that's not this business. This business is created to help create lasting change in your life. So you may cringe when I tell you things, but you will also trust that what I'm telling you is the answer to your healing. I'm curious, who has actually had or given an apology to themselves in the adult form? This is the first conversation you will have. And then we're going to take it a step further. After you have the initial conversation of yourself, you're going to talk to yourself in two parts. You're going to step into the soul version of you and talk to the self version of you. Your human self needs to hear your soul self. Your soul self is going to talk. And you're going to take turns talking back and forth. Both your soul and yourself need a voice. Because here's the thing about healing and accepting that no one talks about. It isn't a magic wand. It's a choice. It's a choice of who you are. That's the healing. A belief. But how do you make the choice without feeling seen, heard, and valued at the soul and self level? The soul and self adult level. You don't. You will only heal so far. Because while our beliefs are formed in childhood, they are cemented in adulthood. And every experience that you have had that feels similar to that pain has been filed. And the quickest way you go to your memory is not all the way to childhood. It's the one that changed your belief. The one that impacted who you were, which came to you as an adult. Because this choice also came in the form of opportunity. Very few children get opportunities. They get school. Yes? Some prodigies get opportunities. You do not discover who you are without the choice of opportunity present. And so in the undoing, not only will you be having a conversation with yourself, splitting in two, having a conversation at the soul and self level, you will also be taking ownership at the beliefs that happened when opportunity was present, i.e., the choices you made. In those choices specifically, you will have to face why. Why you said yes, why you said no. Why you became more confident, why you did not. Exploring who you are and what you chose when opportunity was present is the fastest way to healing in this phase. So, we have some exploring to do. For those of you that are looking for a support package, we have everything listed below. Some of you may need help orchestrating that soul and self conversation. That can happen in Journey of the Mind. There is a Journey of the Soul and Self option. Okay. There's also our membership. We have lots of different tiers to help you and guide you in. But here's what I want you to remember the most. You're going to be facing truth. But truth without compassion and forgiveness is simply evidence. So don't add to the beliefs that keep you stuck. Be brave enough to show compassion, vulnerability, to grow from mistakes. I'm here if you have questions. You're loved.